Jacob Zuma's new party MK was the biggest spoiler, especially for the EFF, that was pushed into fourth place. So the EFF used to be third, then
Yeah,
became fourth after
it's just
Zuma
interesting to
decided.
me that Jacob Zuma would have that much of an effect.
Yeah, so I
Excuse
mean,
me.
people, it, it's 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 like that Eminem song. Guess who's back?
Right, right,
Okay.
right, right.
I am an African.
South Africa had its election in May, end of May. South Africa is interesting because it has a population of 60 million, 1.2 million square kilometers of land, making it the 24th largest country in the world. And it is the largest, they keep on changing. I don't know if it's the largest economy right now, $403 billion, but it is the most industrialized
In Africa,
economy
yeah.
in Africa. So who was running? The main political parties were the ANC, African National Congress, that's led the country since 1994, since democracy began. Mandela's party, now led by Cyril Ramaphosa, who was just finished 5 years. The Democratic Alliance, more to the sort of center right, led by John Steenhuisen. The Economic Freedom Fighters Party, the far left, led by Julius Malema, and the Mkhonto we Sizwe Party, a brand new party led by Jacob Zuma. Now, when we look at who won, it's a bit different for South Africa because it's a parliamentary system.
Yep.
The ANC won for the first time uh, since democracy began. Mandela's party basically lost its majority and got only 40% from 57% in the previous election.
Hmm.
Jacob Zuma's new party MK was the biggest spoiler, especially for the EFF, that was pushed into fourth place. So the EFF used to be third, then
Yeah,
became fourth after
it's just
Zuma
interesting to
decided.
me that Jacob Zuma would have that much of an effect.
Yeah, so I
Excuse
mean,
me.
people, it, it's 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 like that Eminem song. Guess who's back?
Right, right,
Okay.
right, right. I didn't
'Cause-
expect him to be so popular, especially considering the media coverage of his cases and all sorts of things. I didn't
And maybe
expect.
that media coverage actually worked in his favor. The whole
Yeah,
Donald Trump
perhaps. Yeah, yeah,
boomerang
yeah.
situation. Um, but he's still wildly popular in KwaZulu-Natal, which is where most of his
He's
votes
yeah,
came from, the
yeah.
from the party. Although he cannot stand. But if you want to know more about South African election, we did a series on it.
Right.
I guess if we can just start with the question, what did the results say about this election? And what were the surprises of the results of the South African election?
So, following the historic 2024 national and provincial elections marking South Africa's sixth national election cycle and 30 years of democracy and the end of apartheid, South Africa has formed a government of national unity for the first time in 30 years. Obviously, the government of national unity was prompted by the poor electoral performance of the ruling party, the African National Congress, who received just slightly over 40% of the total vote share, losing its 30-year parliamentary majority. So, just to give you a brief overview of the results, according to data from the Independent Electoral Commission, which is the main body which oversees elections in the country, and Business Tech, the ANC received 40% of the vote, with the DA receiving 22%, the MK 14%, the Economic Freedom Fighters 9%, the Inkatha Freedom Party 4%, while the PA received 2% and the Freedom Front and Action SA both receiving 1% each. So one of the biggest highlights of this election is no doubt the emergence of the MK party headed by former President Jacob Zuma, which replaced the EFF led by Julius Malema as the third largest party in South Africa. Now, there's been a number of developments on that side. Although the IEC historic, debut on the on South Africa's election scene. They believe they should have got even more votes. However, this application has since been withdrawn, and MK MK party members have since been sworn into parliament. Another interesting highlight is the leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, humbly welcomed the results and attributed these parties' loss of support to the emergence of the MK party. So you might not be aware, but
Mm.
Julius Malema was formerly part of the ANC, and then he was the head of the youth league, and then following a spat with then ANC President Jacob Zuma, he then left the ANC Youth League and then
Yeah.
formed the Economic Freedom Fighters in 2013. But this was also prompted by the 2012 Marikana massacre. So the EFF emerged as a champion of miners and domestic workers in the country. Uh,
Yeah.
so he attributed the party's loss to the fact that many EFF supporters who who left who had left the ANC then had found a new home with MK.
Yeah.
Uh, what is also taken for granted in this election is the ANC's acknowledgement of the election results and the subsequent peaceful transition from one administration to another, as highlighted by the leader of Rise Mzansi, Songezo Zibi, at the first sitting of parliament, and
Mm.
also considering the rise of populist and right-wing governments across the globe. The political center in South Africa has held. Just yesterday, we saw uh, the attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump,
Yeah.
which highlights the growing violence in democracies across the globe.
But anyway, Cyril Ramaphosa then proceeded to make, so essentially because now they are still got the largest share of the parliament and the votes, the ANC, but they can't form government, right? That's what it
Yeah.
means when you lose the majority. So Cyril Ramaphosa proceeded to make what was initially a statement of intent, which resulted in a coalition of 11 parties known as the Government of National Unity, GNU. The coalition excludes the EFF and the MK, but includes the DA and numerous smaller parties, like the once powerful Inkatha Freedom Party. Susan Pofu Walsh, an analyst, political analyst from South Africa, who I've actually had on our podcast much earlier, actually said that the ANC lost the election but won the negotiations. So if you check our previous episodes, you can see in more detail. But essentially, the ANC got 40.18%, the DA got 21.81%, the MK got 14.58%. So yeah, basically,
Hmm.
coalition making is how it all ended up. And yeah, so the ministers of South Africa are all divided according to that coalition, and the opposition are all those people that are not in the coalition. Yeah.
But do you think South Africa could potentially? I mean, because for now, I haven't really seen anything terrible happening in SA, like, with regards to the politics. I haven't been paying too much attention. But do you think something like what recently happened in Germany could happen in South Africa, where you have, maybe the DA? I'm assuming that the DA is probably their largest partner in the coalition,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where you see
Second
like,
largest.
yeah,
Yeah.
where you see like a like maybe there's maybe you could answer this question, but do you think that there's a large divide in the economic principles of the ANC and the DA and do you think that there could be a potential point where you can see like, okay, there might be some sharp differences that could potentially like make this coalition fall apart?
Um, there are differences already with
Okay.
although not necessarily on the biggest finance issues,
Mhm.
uh, um, but there are differences like on education. There's a new education law that they wanted to pass through, and the DA wasn't very happy about that. Um, so yeah, it's known as the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill. There was a lot of chaos going on there,
Okay.
and there's also been the removal of the Trade and Industry Minister, who was DA.
Okay.
So Ramaphosa replaced him with an ANC person.
Interesting.
Um, sort of. So basically, um, they are talking down an idea of them ever like sabotaging government. There's still like a spirit of wanting to work together, but
Mhm.
like from Steenhausen, it's sort of the expectation that if you're going to remove someone from the DA, you should inform me first.
Mhm.
I can have a review process. Um, yeah, it's like it's a very like dialogue based.
Okay. And yeah,
Especially from the DA, that's the main thing that they keep on insisting that the president can't fire someone without consultation
consult.
from the
Yeah.
DA.
Yeah.
We are part of the same coalition government. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's only time will tell if they
Yeah.
want to destroy the ANC, because
Yeah.
some people did say, oh, they'll try and because to elect a president in South Africa, you need 2/3.
Mhm.
So to remove a president, you also need 2/3.
Yeah.
So if they want to, they can put a vote of no confidence,
Yeah.
and the ANC doesn't have those seats, so they could threaten him if they
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah.
So far, there seems to be a positive outlook on some things like the electricity and load shedding.
Mhm.
It seems to have been improved. Although whether that's because of the DA or because of this is
Yeah.
controversial.